You wanted to know how to meditate. Well, I can tell you how I do it. Hey, you, it's AD Roundtree. How's it going? How are you? Welcome to this, your Friday edition of the show. Yeah, Friday, my friend. Excellent job. You did it. You made it through yet another week. Your weekend is upon you. And you know what? You have earned this one because every single day you work so hard. You grind away. You give the best that you are for the people that matter the most. And not only that, you do so much that helps keep our little part of the world turning here. And I want to say thank you to you for everything that you do. If there's anything I can do for you, if you need something, if there's anything I can do for you to make your Friday better, hit me up. I'm here with you. I'm here for you. At ADSXE. It's where you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at ADSXE. Put it in your phone now in case you need it later. So you or someone like you, a lot of people have asked me about meditation. Now, yesterday on the show, this came up. A couple of people had asked how I stay positive in the face of everything that's been going on for the last few months. A couple of people had asked how to stay positive in general when it feels like the world is ending. I got a really, really nice email from someone who said something to the effect of, hey, I've got it pretty good, yet I can barely get out of bed in the morning. You've been through a lot. And I have been. Over the last 3 months, I spent 2 of those months in Kosovo, then Macedonia, looking after my father during a medical emergency. Eventually got him back to America under incredibly stressful and difficult circumstances and wound up losing him. So I guess I'm mourning. And it hurts. If you've been through something like this before, you know the grief kind of hits you in waves. They say over time, the waves get smaller and further apart. And I'm still sort of waiting on that to happen. But a lot of people had said something to the effect of, man, I've got it good and I can barely get out of bed in the morning. You've had sort of a rough ride recently. And, well, when I listen to you, you're so positive and uplifting. How do you do it? How do you stay positive when it feels like the world is ending? And I said, there are really 3 main things. Thing number 1 is I look for opportunities to pick other people up. I look for a chance to turn somebody else's frown upside down. I find that focusing away from myself, away from my problems, away from the things that might be bothering me, plaguing me, and looking for an opportunity to brighten somebody else's day, quite often that has an incredible effect on me. That's thing number 1, trying to help other people out. Thing number 2 is exercise. I find that exercise really does an awful lot to change your state of mind. We've talked about exercise on this show a lot. There's people that have seen the before and after picture of me on Instagram where I go from being, 50 pounds overweight to about 50 pounds less and reasonably ripped. And a lot of people wanted to know how I did that. And here's what's interesting. I didn't set out to get in shape and lose a bunch of weight. I set out to change my state of mind. I'd been struggling with depression, and I learned from a therapist years ago that if you want to break out of a funk, getting the old heart rate up, getting the heart pumping and the blood moving and getting yourself to a place where you are sweating and huffing and puffing for around 20 minutes in a day does an awful lot. Those physical changes, those benefits of being stronger, maybe looking and feeling better, carrying a little less extra baggage around. The physical benefits of exercise take a while, but I find the mental benefits happen almost instantly, overnight. And so I look to exercise to help me manage my mood, I suppose, manage my state of mind. And then the other thing that I have been doing pretty regularly is meditation. Now, when I mentioned meditation, my email inbox kind of sort of blew up. I started hearing from a lot of people. It was almost like when I started talking about exercise. People have an interest in it that I was not aware of. And I've gotten a lot of emails and messages from you and people like you saying, what is meditation? How do I do meditation? What sort of meditation do you practice? And well, this is going to be a short podcast because I don't know that much about meditation. I preface this in the same way that I preface any talk you and I do about exercise. I can only tell you what works for me. I am not in any way, shape, or form qualified to dispense any kind of advice. I don't really know anything about anything other than the things, like I said, which have worked for me. And you might have a different situation. You might have a whole different thing in play. And I'm certainly not a meditation instructor or teacher. There are people who do that, and I'm sure that you will get much better advice, much more practical advice from them. But, hold on, here's one. I got an email from Mark. Mark, thank you for listening to the show. Oh, and thank you for becoming a patron on Patreon. If you want to support the podcast the way Mark does, you can do that at patreon.com/ADSXE. That's patreon.com/ADSXE. That's where you can support the show and listen to episodes commercial free. But Mark said, AD, you talked about meditation on your podcast yesterday. How do you do it? How did you learn it? I've always been fascinated by the idea of meditation, and I want to try it, but I don't know where to begin. There's so much on YouTube and in the App Store, and I don't know what's legit and what's not. Well, like I said, I can only tell you what worked for me, and I'm sure there's all sorts of things out there that are legit. But the type of meditation that I was interested in when I first sort of started looking into it was TM, transcendental meditation. Now, the reason I was interested in it was not because I was bummed out or stressed or depressed, or because I needed help managing my state of mind. The reason I was interested in transcendental meditation was because of Jerry Seinfeld. If you follow me online, if you've known me for any length of time, you know that Jerry Seinfeld is pretty much my everything. I love Jerry Seinfeld. And he's been transcendentally meditating, I think, since he was in college many years ago. Also, I feel a similar way about the great Howard Stern. And Howard Stern's been practicing transcendental meditation. So right there, two people that do things that I admire and sort of aspire to as a radio guy. You know, there's certain amounts of humor involved, and that's where the Jerry Seinfeld thing comes in. And then, obviously, you know, the biggest guy in the rock radio history, Howard Stern. Well, every one of us that do rock or alternative radio, we are. It's not even that we're stealing his shtick anymore. We just live in a world that he built. So people like Jerry Seinfeld and Howard Stern are practitioners of transcendental meditation, as are the guys in the Beatles. And, well, the list goes on and on. There's tons of people that do it. Some people talk about it. Some people don't. Rick Rubin, super producer to the stars, known for his work with everyone from my personal favorites, my favorite band of all time, Beastie Boys, to Chili Peppers, to System of a Down, to Tom Petty, to Slayer, and everyone in between. So, between folks like Jerry Seinfeld, Howard Stern, the Beatles, Rick Rubin, and folks like that, it occurred to me that if you are trying to be creative, transcendental meditation seems to be a bit of a thing. Also, I'd heard that it did great things for folks that were dealing with PTSD after coming back from combat situations. It's been great for veterans suffering from PTSD. In fact, David Lynch, the director, a Twin Peaks guy, one of the biggest and most prolific and successful directors of all time, he started a foundation, I think. And he has folks like Paul McCartney from the Beatles and Jerry Seinfeld and people like that speak at his events about the benefits of transcendental meditation. They do a lot of outreach work to veterans suffering from PTSD, and they've made great strides in that area in terms of helping people get their lives back. So I was super interested in transcendental meditation, but I didn't know what it was. Now, there's schools, transcendental meditation centers all over the world that kind of charge you whatever it costs to learn how to meditate. And apparently they are very reasonable. If you, what I've heard, and I've never been to one, I've never signed up for one of their classes. What I've heard is that they will never turn someone away because they don't have the money to take a course in transcendental meditation. I don't know how much it costs. I know that it costs something significant. And well, my thing when I wanted to learn was I was like, okay, maybe I'll go to one of these centers and take a couple classes in it. I didn't have time. At the time, I was working like freaking crazy, and the idea of taking time out of my day to go do this was just an impossibility. Any free time I had was after the centers were closed, and so it just didn't work out. So I dug around and dug around and dug around. And there's another guy connected with Beastie Boys, a guy called Russell Simmons, who started Def Jam Records, coincidentally with Rick Rubin back in the day, who is all about meditation and who is all about sort of educating people on meditation. And well, I'd read a couple of his books, and he made a free app called Meditation Made Simple. And in it, he sort of breaks down what it is, how you do it. Now, there's a zillion apps out there, but that's the one that I kind of learned from. And I suppose what I do is a bastardized version of transcendental meditation, because I didn't go to a school for it. I didn't take a course in it. Apparently, when you do that, they give you what's called a mantra, a word that you repeat over and over again that is specifically selected for you. That's what people say. I never got that. So from what I understand, what I do is, like I said, kind of a bastardized or bootleg version of transcendental meditation. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't know much, and I'm sure there's people that know a lot more about this than I do that could correct me in all sorts of ways. I can only tell you what's worked for me. But this Russell Simmons app, Meditation Made Simple, it's free, and it kind of gave me the beginner's tools. And here's the thing. When I can, I meditate for about 20 minutes a day. And it's strange because, well, it gives you relief, or gives me relief from a lot of the things that are I'm mentally struggling with at the moment. Everything from grief to unpleasant images from my time looking after my dad that might pop into my head at inopportune moments and things of that nature. I find that it's interesting because there is a cumulative effect when it comes to meditation. On the surface, it's 20 minutes where you get, like I said, relief, kind of an escape from the world and everything about it that bothers you. But it does sort of affect the rest of your day. There's a lot of people that do one in the morning, one 20-minute meditation session in the morning, and another one in the afternoon. I've always been a one-a-day person. If I had more time, maybe I would go to 2 a day. But like I said, there's a cumulative effect where you get relief from the world for those 20 minutes and you're doing it. It also sort of sets you up a little bit for the rest of your day, but you do it once and it's cool. You do it twice, 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row. Well, you start to notice a really kind of, the best way I could describe it is a pleasant difference. It's not necessarily, something that's going to make you calm, something that's going to make you less aggressive, but it is a pleasant difference. A sort of, when you get one of those really good nights of sleep, yeah, they're kind of hard to come by these days. But it's this sort of refreshed clarity that alleviates some anxiety as well. Like I said, a pleasant difference is the best way I can explain it. And I can honestly tell you it does a lot to kind of help me manage my state of mind. So this is the thing. How do I do it? How can you do it? Well, first and foremost, I would recommend that you download the app Meditation Made Simple by Russell Simmons. Pretty sure it's still free in the App Store and in the Google Play Store. And that'll sort of walk you through it. But what old Russell does is he gives you a mantra, a word that you repeat over and over again. Not necessarily out loud, but in your head, you kind of focus on. Now, here's the thing. He gives you a mantra that you can use. I think in the app, it's the mantra rum. He's not talking about a drink, but you can Google transcendental meditation. You can Google transcendental meditation mantras and a whole bunch of things will come up. Now, the important part with the mantra, and again, this is a bootleg bastardized version of transcendental meditation, but the important thing is that it is a word which is meaningless to you. It's a word that's meaningless to you, and you kind of focus on that word and say that word to yourself internally as you do this and as you breathe deeply. And what that does, it's an interesting thing. It frees up other parts of your mind by focusing on this meaningless word and repeating it over and over again, and by sort of listening to the sound of your breathing as you are sitting quietly. It's a remarkable thing, but, well, it kind of lets your mind go to some places that it wouldn't while you were paying attention to it. By paying attention to something else, it's like, well, your mind just happens. You know how sometimes you can drive home and you don't remember the drive? You've done it a zillion times. You know it inside out, but for some reason you're like, oh, what just happened? The whole commute, I didn't really notice any of it. Was I paying attention to the road? Well, of course I was. It's sort of similar to that. You kind of go elsewhere, and it's very difficult to describe until you do it. It's not something magical. It's not something mystical. It's not something especially profound. It's just a certain type of relaxation and a break that you don't get from too many things. Another thing that I kind of compare meditation to occasionally, a game of catch. I found that when I was growing up, I had some of my best conversations with my father over a game of catch. Why? Well, similar to meditation, when you're focusing on this meaningless word, your mind is free to wander to some different and interesting places that it wouldn't necessarily do. Because it's not something that requires your full attention, but it requires enough of your attention to where you're sort of half focused on it, and the other half is sort of meandering around. And I found that playing catch with my dad, we're both focused on the ball. We throw it, we catch it. You hear the repetitive sound of the ball hitting the glove. And you probably notice this when you're playing catch with people too, if you're just tossing a ball back and forth. Conversation takes some interesting turns, some unexpected turns. Your mind wanders to some interesting places because, well, a lot of you is focused on that ball and not dropping it and not getting hit in the face by it. So it's sort of diverting your focus and allowing your mind to go elsewhere while you do it. Does that make sense? So that's it. Now, how do you physically do it? Well, in my case, my mantra is the one old Russell Simmons gave to me, rum. I know it means a drink, but I found that when I repeat it over and over again in my mind, it really kind of is meaningless, and I don't associate anything to it. But you want to pick a word, and you can Google transcendental meditation mantras. I'm sure there's people that'd be angry that I'm telling you this right now, but you can. And you just find something that is comfortable to you to say, first out loud, then quieter, and then maybe only in your mind. But the important part is that it is meaningless to you. It doesn't have any significance. It's a sound. It's a vibration. I think Om is the one that a lot of other people use. I couldn't bring myself to do the Om thing because, well, it seems so done. I had some really kind of cheesy hippie friends back in the day who were like, come on, man, do this with me. Om. And they probably had a point, but if I tried the Om thing, I just thought of my pothead friends, and it didn't do me any good. It has to be meaningless. It has to allow you to focus on just the sound of the word. Does that make sense? So I sit there upright, usually on my bed or in a chair. Oftentimes I have my hands on my knees, or if I'm on my bed, I'll grab a pillow or wrap myself in a blanket and sort of sit cross-legged and, kind of clasp, either if my hands aren't on my knees, I'll sometimes put my hands together just so they're not really doing anything. They're not wandering around. It's not taking any effort to put them where they are. I want to be relaxed, want the room to be as quiet as possible. Close your eyes, take a deep breath in, breathe it out. Usually I have my phone set for 20 minutes. And, well, the app has the mantra repeated over and over again, and you can listen to it in your headphones. And for a while I did, but eventually I just wound up doing it by myself in silence. And you focus on this word. For me, it's rum, over and over in your head. You kind of wind up listening to the sound of your breathing, but always focus on this word. All sorts of things can pop into your head. It's not some dream-like thing, but you kind of just let your thoughts go and flow and don't judge any of them. Sometimes I think about nothing. Sometimes I think very deep and profound and specific things. But the important thing is you keep coming back to your breathing, which will probably get slower as your heart rate gets lower, and the sound of the word in your mind. Does that make sense? So it's weird because you start doing it, and if you are like me, you're a bit of a control freak, and you think nothing is going to unhinge your tightly wound mind. Nothing's going to hurt your consciousness, or not hurt, because it's not a hurtful thing, but nothing's going to break the impenetrable barrier that you have made with your mind. That's what I thought going into this. But 3 to 5 minutes in, I'm all of a sudden wondering where exactly the time went. And I just noticed myself focusing on the breathing. And quite frankly, when the timer goes off 20 minutes later, I'm like, is that it? Am I done? I felt like okay, gosh, it was a quick 20 minutes. And talk to people like Rivers Cuomo of Weezer. I think he meditates for 2 hours a day, once in the morning and once at night. And then he'll go on these meditation retreats where all you do is eat, sleep, and meditate. That's it. And Rivers Cuomo of Weezer, one of the most sustaining writers of hit songs for the last 20, 30 years, he will tell you that his meditation practice is a big part of his creative process. How? Is it a case of you're going to start meditating and all of a sudden you're going to be cranking out the hits? Does it instantly turn you into Jerry Seinfeld or Howard Stern? No, it doesn't do any of that. But whatever you do, it kind of offers, like I said, a pleasant difference as you make your way in the world, and it gives you a little bit of, clarity. And, oftentimes I do feel more inspired in a day where I've been able to do this for 20 minutes versus a day where I haven't. For me, someone that spends their life going on the radio and talking to people, a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of help in the creative department is definitely a good thing. Helps pay the old mortgage. So that's it. That's how I meditate. I sit quietly with my eyes closed. I repeat this meaningless phrase, rum, to myself over and over again in my mind. And I wait for the timer to hit. And whenever it does, I'm always like, I don't know what happened. I don't know how that went by so quickly, but that was 20 minutes where I wasn't plagued by some of the things that cause me stress and anxiety in life. And I feel unbelievably refreshed. And I'm going to carry that state with me off into the day. Like I said, Meditation Made Simple by Russell Simmons is kind of sort of how I learned the technique. And you can go to a Transcendental Meditation Center. There's all sorts of them all over the world. Wherever you're listening to this, I'm sure there's one in your town. There's all sorts of guides online. But I understand when I get emails from folks like Mark saying, I don't know what's legit and what's not. I totally get that because I went through the same thing. But yeah, give it a go. You too might experience the pleasant difference. That is it for me. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for hanging. Thank you for being a part of my radio family. As always, this time that you and I spend together, it's the best part of my day. I'll be back soon. We'll do it all over again. Later.